Welcome to What's Cooking. So this is our annual budget cook-off. How many of you guys liked our email that we sent out, budget seasonings? Made you hungry. So I wish we could take full credit for it. We went to a budget forum in Phoenix, and a presenter from Long Beach, California talked about their budget seasonings and what they send out to the departments to kind of keep them engaged throughout the budget process. And they were gracious enough to share with us their ideas, and we enjoyed it, and we hope you guys do too. We are using a platform for an interactive experience in the budget kickoff. So you can use your camera and scan the UR code, or you can go to thementi.com and enter in that code. And you should get like a thumbs up, and go ahead and press that thumbs up, and that lets you know that you're connected to the presentation. And what this is doing is connecting you to our presentation, but also for the interactive questions that we have. All right, so first pop quiz question. How many of you guys have checked out our digital budget book? So you should be on your phone, you should have a little question, and you can go ahead and you can pop up and we can kind of see where everyone's at. And that's about what we've been seeing and kind of expected. So at this time, we want to take a quick detour and kind of show you OMB's digital budget book. So you can find the link on our website, and so we're kind of walking you through where you guys can find it. The digital budget book has a lot of information for you guys to review. We're pretty excited about it. So you have these various menus with subcategories that you can review information. So instead of having that PDF version of our budget book, we have this nice online platform that you can select a different topic you are interested in. What might be most interesting for some of our departments is the department pages. And so we have kind of a, you can find your department page, you can select it, and then what's going to populate for you is what you would normally see written out. So it gives you your mission statement, your major functions, your significant accomplishments for the year, and if you have initiatives for the next year, your performance measures. And what's also nice about viewing your information is that it gives you historical information. So we have a 10-year historical information, both revenues and expenditures for your department or agency. So it gives you an opportunity to kind of see what's coming in, what's going out. It's interactive, so you can actually deselect information if you wanted to specifically look at something. And down here, we have the spreadsheet. Oops, if you want to scroll up a little bit, Lucia. The spreadsheet, and you can kind of click on that, and it gives you more of the details. And then, it kind of drills in further for you guys to take a look at that. All right, so we'll be discussing the recipes for success. So we're going to be going over our kitchen timer. We did some remodeling in the kitchen, so we're going to talk about that, what's new in MDSS, going through our budget stages, decision packages, the strategic plan and the budget process, the performance measures, budget monitoring, and personnel. So our kitchen timer is basically our timeline. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure you guys actually kind of picked up on is we're actually open for business. MDSS is open for you guys to start working on your budget. So you can be working on your year-end projections, your 23 base, and decision packages. So over the summer, we had kind of a workshop. We invited several departments, and we received some feedback. And one of it was that the length of time that you guys had during the budget process wasn't really enough. You have holidays mixed in there. You had people taking PTO because of the holidays. So the 6 weeks that you were getting, you would normally get it mid-December to the end of January, wasn't enough time. So we've given you more time. So we're opening it up November, and it doesn't close until February 18th. So you guys have plenty of time to go ahead and get in there and start working. It's not an invitation to procrastinate to the last minute. We want good information, so it doesn't hurt for you guys to start working on it now. And then as new information comes in, you can make adjustments, and that way come February 18th, which is our deadline, you guys are ready to go. So an important deadline that we want to make sure that you guys are aware of is November 30th. If you're a department or agency that is looking to have a market study or grade adjustment performed, you need to get that request into HR by November 30th. That's a hard deadline. Another deadline that we have that we want to make sure you guys are aware of is if you're putting in a decision package that involves ITS, facilities, or if you're looking to have a reclassification study done, those requests need to be into those departments by December 30th. So we'll kind of go through how to put in a request for an assessment, but you want to make sure that you're hitting that for December 30th. February 18th, that's our deadline. Decision packages will be in, year-end projections will be in, 23 baseline will be in. So that's your guys' cutoff. New for this year is the personnel reconciliation due date. Traditionally, that is a March timeframe. We wanted to be consistent with our deadlines from departments, and having different deadlines might have been a bit confusing. That was some of the feedback that we got. So we're consolidating. We're having the one deadline. So what that means for you guys is when Lucia sends out that reconciliation spreadsheet February 7th, review it and get back to her by the 18th, and be cognizant that this is a month early. So any type of changes that happen from that cutoff date won't be reported on that reconciliation spreadsheet. So you'll have to keep that in mind. March 7th through the 11th, that's when departments are meeting with BRT. Don't think of that as a chore that you have to come and meet with BRT. Even if you don't have decision packages, Susan and BRT likes to hear you guys come in, share your successes, what barriers you guys are experiencing for potential future decision packages, so we can kind of be proactive to your guys' needs. In May 2nd, we're going to be presenting the recommended budget to the board, and the board will meet with departments and offices May 2nd and 3rd. June, we're looking to adopt our budget on June 20th, and that's when your adopted line items will be available in MDSS. So some remodeling in the kitchen that we've done. So one big thing that we did is we created an Omb Suggested Base. So in prior years, we've kind of talked about aligning your budget to your historical spending. So some departments have started that process. We went through and did this for all funds. We took a look at several years of actual spendings, historical budgets, and your reversions year to year. This is the same information that BRT looks at when they're making decisions on whether or not to recommend a budget or recommend a decision package. So we went through and made a suggestion of what the budgets for that particular line item should be. That is not set in stone. You are able to make adjustments to that line item. What we're asking for departments to kind of make a little notation of why that's being adjusted. Just for information, if BRT is looking at and saying, well, they historically don't need that budget, why are they wanting to keep it? So if you're making kind of changes, go ahead and make a little notation. Another point to kind of keep in mind is if you're making a change from our suggested baseline, if you're adjusting it plus or minus, you need to make sure that you're finding another line item to go ahead and make that difference, so that way you stay balanced. We looked at your supplies and services. So if your base without one times was $373,000, your Omb suggested base is $373,000. We did not take dollars away. We did not give dollars away. going into the stage 2, this is where you guys are operating in. So you will be entering in your year-end projections for all funds. For 23, you're going to be reviewing OMB's suggested baseline and either entering that value or putting in a different amount with the notation of why you're making that change. And the idea is you're not going to be increasing your bottom line for the general fund and districts. You'll be reviewing and returning the personnel spreadsheet to Lucia. You'll be completing your decision packages in MDSS. And if you are needing a CIP, then none of you guys are in a department that would normally manage the CIP process. So if you need one, you'll contact your budget contact person and we'll get you connected on getting a decision package put into the system. Our admin adjust stage, this is where we're going to be uploading personnel, making any changes that departments or agencies are requesting based on late information that they get, because we understand that we're closing it February 18th. You know, special revenue especially might get additional grant money, and so we want to go ahead and capture that. And so it will happen in admin adjust. Another thing new this year is for departments and agencies that have New World licenses and radios, we are shifting the budget authority and the expense to non-departmental for direct charge. That does not impact the sheriff's office. This is other offices that have general funds that has New World radios, New World license and radios. Stage 4 is our recommended stage, so we'll be presenting the recommended line items and decision packages to the board. We will distribute the personnel spreadsheets and the decision package dispositions for you guys to know what BRT is recommending to the board. And then in the recommended stage, Board of Supervisors are going to meet with you guys. And then stage 5 is our tentative budget. We make any adjustments to the budget based on the direction the board gives us. And then we kind of go into our final stage, adopted budget. We make any final adjustments from the board, and then we go ahead and adopt it. And then we send out adopted line items, or we let you know when adopted line items are available in MDSS, and then send out those adopted personnel spreadsheet. So we're going to go into our decision packages. So again, due February 18th. We still have the main categories: supplies and services, personnel, and capital outlay. Remember, December 30th is that due date. If you are looking to have a decision package that's going to impact facilities, ITS, and personnel for a reclassification study to be done, that needs to be requested by December 30th to the respective department. Even if you are an agency that has your own IT, we are still needing the county ITS's assessment. So other is used in the case if you have multiple divisions within your department and you're shifting expense and budget authority from one division to another. So that's a category in the decision packages to use. We also have a category if you are expanding a program or creating a new program. So we have that as an option. So for other forms, really the only form that is left is our Excel transfer form. We haven't quite figured out a way to kind of have that in MDSS, so for now it's going to continue being an Excel spreadsheet. It's located on our website, and it will be emailed to your budget contact. For year-end estimates that have transfers in and out, we are asking for you not to make those adjustments, even if you know that's what's going to happen. The problem is when you make your adjustment on your end, we need to make the same adjustment on the receiving end. And when we don't have that information, then we're not balanced, and it kind of creates a mess for us to try and find. If you do need to make your adjustment on your transfers in and out for your year-end projections, that would just be an email to us. All right, so we talked about requesting an assessment. So again, December 30th is our deadline. For facilities management, you're going to go to their county webpage, and you're going to see project request, and you're going to fill out their fillable form and hit submit. For ITS, you're going to contact their help desk. This is the information that they're going to ask you, so you want to have that ready. And then for HR, for the reclassification study, you're going to contact Jessica Arcenega to get that requested. All right, so we're kind of talking about our decision package and how we kind of look at them. And one of the things that we kind of want to talk about is a good budget process kind of goes beyond the traditional method of monitoring line item expenditures and having those controls. Really, a budget process is designed to help decision makers make appropriate decisions based on the need and how it's going to move the county forward. So this is the criteria that BRT looks at. And remember, everybody's kind of going after the same pot of money. And so you really want to develop your decision packages that's going to give you the highest points to kind of help prove that you need that decision package. And with that, we kind of talk about going into the strategic plan. So a good budget process has many key elements, and one of those elements is tying resources to the organizational's broad goals. Well, tying those decision packages to the strategic plan is doing that. It's fulfilling that key element in having a good budget process. Susan had sent out a memo back in March to directors and elected officials, so I'm not sure if that information kind of got pushed down to you guys, but in a sense, she was kind of directing and kind of illustrating the fact that BRT really put a deliberate effort in the budget process, implementing the strategic plan into the budget process. So if you guys didn't notice, the strategic plan had a more deliberate effect on the budget process in 22. And that's going to continue to be the case as we move forward, as we really try and ingrain this into our culture. All right, so during the fiscal year 22 budget process, so last year, which strategic pillar do you think was used more often when submitting a decision package? Now, if you weren't involved, that's okay. Make your best guess. So the strategic plan has 3 pillars. Those are the 3 pillars. Those are our priorities. Okay, well, we'll talk about those results here in a little bit. So this is leftovers from, every budget cycle, every budget kickoff. We kind of go over what's important in a decision package. And so this is kind of a carryover from each year. A reminder, so when you are submitting a request, you want to make sure that you're supporting your department in meeting its initiatives, or how is it aligning with the county strategic plan? So you want to make sure you're identifying an initiative and or a target output. If there is a performance measure that would be impacted by a decision package, go ahead and include that when you're filling in your decision package. So this is an example. This is a fictitious decision package put in. And it's basically to kind of illustrate what can be included when we're putting in a decision package. So here we have some trending information. We have the same number of nurses, but we have a higher volume of appointments. And so they have a target to have 15-minute wait times. They're currently at 16.1. Well, they're requesting 3 additional nurses. So BRT has a decision to make. We have our initiative. It's being tied to, the strategic plan. If it's if it's not recommended, you know, the impact would be, well, then we're gonna miss the mark on this target. And that would be kind of a decision that BRT would have to make. And it's the department's responsibility to sell your case. And what I mean by selling your case, so this is an actual decision package from adult probation. Mike Bird really wants to make sure that we know that his decision packages are important to his department, and he has really good narratives. So this is an example of the substance abuse testing that he wanted. It was a big ticket item, and he's telling us, you know, what he's trying to accomplish, you know, and what his initiative is that ties to the strategic plan. And that's kind of like a little synopsis of his narrative that he provided. And you can kind of see this little scroll bar here. So he gave us some really good information. This is also a decision package that is being monitored by his performance measures. And we'll kind of talk about that in the next couple of slides. So he's tying his request to all these measures in hopes that BRT is going to recommend the decision package. If it's important to you, show it to us. So some helpful elements for the ROI. Think about, is this request going to benefit the county and how? You know, is it going to be, you know, a time saving? Are you going from reactive to proactive? So think about that, and that might kind of help frame up some of your narratives. We're also available if you guys get stuck on a narrative and you're putting in a decision package. We're available, your budget contact's available to kind of help walk you through the process in building strong decision packages. Supporting documentation. Make sure that whatever required information that you need to support your decision package, your request, is included. So if you're going through the ERM process, if there's a quote, you know, is your request required to have a quote? It's really good to have trending data. And again, that ITS assessment, make sure that you've put in that request for our ITS assessment. If it's going to be a new hire, make sure that you're including a job description and or assessment. So another thing that Mike Bird did for a decision package was include pictures. So I know from someone, you know, kind of looking outside, and if a request comes in and it's like, I'm sure it's okay. I'm sure it's not as bad as they're claiming it to be in their narratives. If you include a picture, it's going to be, you know, quite apparent that yes, in fact, you do need, you know, a replaced chair of some sort. So if it makes sense to include an image, include an image. So here's our recap for the strategic plans. So 6 out of 10 decision packages selected operational excellence. So they're tying their decision package to that pillar. And out of that, effective staffing was the #1 objective. So it was important to directors and agency heads and elected officials that they had proper staffing to get the job done. And so that just kind of illustrates where the departments really wanted to allocate resources. And here is kind of letting you know, general fund, there was 147 decision packages recommended. So for 22, there was 239 decision packages submitted, 212 were recommended. So that kind of gives you a kind of comparison. So 212 decision packages were recommended, and general fund took 147. And it makes sense that you'll see a lot for general fund, seeing how that's a fund that's tax-based, so everything kind of goes through a decision package process, so that kind of makes sense and follows. For more information, so there's a better synopsis of this recap on our digital budget book, and it's located in the budget. I have it written down, hold on. It's in the budget section. Yeah, budget overview and the strategic plan. We have a nice narrative that kind of recaps that information. So we encourage you guys to go to our digital budget book. All right, so our marketplace gathering. So department highlights, this is another kitchen remodel that we did. So this was, you guys would probably be more familiar with it being called significant accomplishments. So I was thinking about the term significant accomplishments and felt that maybe departments felt that what they did during the year isn't considered significant. And so they wouldn't report out on it. And so I felt that that was kind of a too subjective word. So I feel department highlights is going to give us better information. Departments are going to be more apt to go ahead and celebrate their successes in their departments. So here we're talking about our department page updates. So we were hoping that MDSS will kind of fill that bridge for department page updates where we're talking about your mission, your major functions, your department highlights and initiatives. And it just wasn't going to quite meet our needs. So we've kind of went back, and I'm sure you guys have noticed for last year, for 22, is that we went back to a Word document and an Excel workbook for performance measures. Another kitchen remodel is the timing of when we're requesting this information. So this information was being requested for you guys to provide back to us the same date that your decision packages were due, that your line items were due, you know, your baseline, your year-end projections were due. And that was in January, and we're asking you guys to report out, how did your department do when you're still in the middle of your year? So we kind of stepped back and looked at it and said, okay, that doesn't really make sense. We're going to be asking for this information in the summer. So after the budget's been adopted, so it's going to be the summertime, we're going to start sending out emails requesting for department updates that we can update your department page. And again, this information can be found on our digital budget book, and then you can scroll down to department pages or department budgets. When we're talking about performance measures, if a measure target isn't met, we did ask for this last year for folks to report out what was the cause that a performance measure wasn't met. Now, we have 96 performance measures. Oh, you know, I'm getting ahead of myself. So it's okay if a target isn't met. Was there extenuating circumstances? You know, share with us what happened. So again, this is Mike, Del Probation. He shared a very good synopsis of what caused, so his target was 73, his actual for closing out 21 was only 55%. So what happened? Well, he gave us a really good explanation, you know, and of course, the number one culprit is going to be COVID-19 and how it affected the treatment services for drug court. So don't be afraid to report out. Give us a reason why that happened. Maybe that target isn't appropriate for what you're trying to measure. So this is another department I kind of wanted to highlight. They'd had a very, very successful year. This is the recorder's office. And I can't celebrate it enough. So, you know, they kind of talk about they had the highest voter turnout to date, and this was during COVID. So you can tell that they were successful based on what they did for their performance measures. I mean, we're talking, they had a target for a 30-minute wait time for voters, and they got it down to 25. They were looking to do 20 outreaches, and they wound up doing 25 outreaches. So you can see that their efforts really kind of played a huge role in the success of their department. And again, you can find their information on their page. All right, so here's a question. What is a major challenge in reporting performance measures? And you can give as many answers that make sense for you guys. And if you don't necessarily complete performance measures, what would you think? You know, if it was you having to put together a performance measure, what would it be? All right, so we got not meeting target.
Poorly devised performance measures.
Oh, that's a really good one. You're right. Maybe the performance measure's not a good one. Time. Reporting out performance measures can be time consuming. So in response to time, in response to poorly devised performance measures, one thing that we kind of share with folks is go look out and see what other folks are doing. Go to another county's facilities management website and see what they're reporting out and kind of get an idea to see, okay, is this a measure that we want to do, and kind of get an idea. Yeah, clear objective. So, and then not meeting the target, and again, not meeting a target, is that necessarily a bad thing? So there could be a couple of things. We talked about COVID. So in our, actually I'm getting ahead of myself. So not meeting targets. So there could be extenuating circumstances of not meeting a target. Maybe the target is poorly designed, so the poorly designed measures, so you're not meeting your target. Clear objective, maybe your folks that are trying to do the work aren't clear on what's trying to be reported out. Unforeseen events. And this is the information that we're hoping that folks will share with us as we kind of go through and we ingrain the strategic plan, performance measures into our budget process for a more effective tool for decision making. All right, so here's our recap of our performance measures for 21. Remember, COVID played an impact in this. So we can see that there was 96 performance measures entered into the system. So out of those 96, 50%, and this has got some rounding in it. So 50% are tied to effective governance. So basically 5 out of 10 performance measures are tied to effective governance. And then you have your operational excellence and your valued employees and resources. So that's kind of where the performance measures were tied to. Let's talk about achieving the measures. So we had 96 performance measures recorded. 46 were achieved. So that gave us like a 46% success rate. And someone might think like, well, wow, that's kind of bad. You know, that's not even half. So out of the 50 that was not achieved, 18 of those were due to COVID. And I did do some calculations on some of the performance measures because they clearly kind of demonstrated, so I was able to do the math. We would have, if we were able to achieve those 18, that would have brought up our percentage to 67% success rate, which is obviously is pretty substantial difference. So out of the 46 decision, I keep saying decision package, the 46 performance measures that were achieved, so for effective governance, 58 of them were achieved. And we have our operational excellence at 40 and our valued employees at 27. We have a really good synopsis of our recap on our digital budget book, and that's going to be in the department budget section. It's the very first sub-menu item. All right, so budget monitoring. Again, this is leftovers. We go over this kind of every year as a reminder. We know that budget's not everyone's job duty. All right, so how often are you guys reviewing your budgets? So if this is,
We're supposed to review it?
I know, that's one of the responses. And maybe it's not your role to monitor the budget, so kind of go in and put what you think is being done. There's no wrong answer.
Same way I do my checkbook. When I get the thing on my phone saying I'm overdrawn, I know I went too far.
So basically, your version of a message from the bank would be Tony calling you and saying, hey, Kevin, you're over budget. All right. So we view budget monitoring as a partnership. So ultimately, it's your guys' responsibility, your departments, your agencies, to be monitoring your budget. The monitoring, monthly is recommended. If it's done more, fantastic. If it's done less, maybe you're a small department and you don't need to monitor it that frequently. Maybe you don't have a lot of changes going on, so that quarterly might be okay for your department. So we just kind of want to make sure that you guys are monitoring it. You're going to be reviewing your budgets. It's recommended before you're processing PAFs to make sure that you are good, you have budget for it. If you're going to be making any significant purchase. If you're looking to do a program or a project that might have some budget implications going on, you're going to want to review your budget and kind of see what that's going to look like. And think ahead. Is that going to impact for the next year that you need to think about a decision package? You should be outreaching OMB if you think you're going to be over budget or you are over budget, because you guys are monitoring, monthly, so you're going to see it before we do, because we're reviewing information on a quarterly basis. Sometimes a little bit more frequently, but generally it's going to be on a quarterly basis. So when we're reviewing your information, and this is for general fund, so we're outreaching departments if we see budget issues. So we're trying to be proactive in that way, making transfers as needed when we see things. If there's department set aside or things like that, we're trying to be proactive. We're focusing on the recurring costs that are associated with the purchase projects and the positions. So we're kind of focused on the future of what's going to kind of keep going on as our contribution to this partnership with you guys. So one thing I kind of want to make sure when we're talking about budget monitoring is if you have savings in personnel that cannot be used for anything other than personnel related items unless it's an emergency, and we're going to ask for proof, and we're going to ask for your firstborn. So be sure that you don't have that mindset that you can use your personnel savings for anything else. If it's an emergency and you go through all the proper channels, then we'll kind of help you walk you through the process. But just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware of that. Lucy, I don't know if you wanted to add to that. Okay. All right, so additional trainings that are available. So these are available for you guys. You'll be contacting, if you're interested in anything, your budget contact person. If you're not entirely sure what you need, like which one falls into that, just give us a call. You might need a little bit of something from everything, and we can kind of personalize a training to make sure that you guys are successful during the budget process. So just give out a holler, let us know what you need, and we'll fit the training to your needs. This is on our website. This is your department point of contact. Even though this is your point of contact, if you need assistance, you can call anybody in the department. We're happy to help. Okay, so now we're going to be going into personnel. All right, so what personnel item is most challenging for your department or agency? And if you're not sure, give a guess if this is something that you don't typically work with. Yes?
I know I'm going to have, I guess I'm going to enter into salary survey, that type of thing. So I'm kind of in the dark as to how to get it done and what's expected.
So that sounds like that might be a market grade adjustment is what you're entering into.
That's what triggered it in my mind.
Have you already contacted HR?
Yeah, they told me to get with Ian and Susan. I've done that, and we're going to sit down, and I have to justify why we need to do this. Kind of bumping in walls right now, but I think it will lead to that if they agree with, what we've found.
So one of the things that we want to make sure that I see a couple for market grade adjustments. HR puts on a training, and maybe you guys aren't a part of the email string to know that there is a training that's provided by HR. If you have specific questions that don't get answered in our slides coming up, you feel free to ask them, or you can contact HR, because that's an HR process. We might have some insight, but for the process itself. And the same with personal reconciliation. So I see that there's a question, or is it a question, or is it just a challenge to get it done? I guess it doesn't. Or maybe it's just saying it's a challenge. We wanted to make sure it kept an eye for you guys, so you guys would be comfortable in responding. Okay, so some leftovers from prior years. So we just kind of want to give us a reminder of the difference between permanent savings and temporary savings. So your permanent savings, if you have a position that you bring them in at a little lower rate than what's budgeted, that's considered permanent savings. Temporary savings is when you have a vacant position for overtime. Generally, that savings is used for temporary employees if needed. So we have our personnel timeline. So reminder, February 18th is your deadline that you'll be putting in all of your decision packages that are associated with personnel, and also your OMB reconciliation spreadsheet with Lucia, and that's going to be due February 18th. So we have March was when OMB will be making the rate adjustments, and we will also have personnel uploaded into MDSS. Then we go into April, we have our recommended personnel spreadsheets out to departments. And then June, July is when we'll be getting those adopted personnel spreadsheets out to departments and agencies. Oops. Okay, so we have our personnel related items. So for vacant general fund positions and positions that are assisted by general fund, if they're vacant, they're going to be brought down to minimum salary and at the PPO employee only benefits. So if you think you need to have that salary saved, so it's a hard to fill position and you're going to need to keep the budget that you currently have, you don't want it to go down to step one, you're going to need to submit a salary hold to make sure that you're retaining that decision, that budget authority for that position. For underfilled positions, if you are anticipating a promotion for the next fiscal year, you're going to need to put in a decision package for that promotion for the underfilled position. It is the department's responsibility to make sure that the title and the pay is correct for that position. And that information can be found on that reconciliation spreadsheet that Lucia sends out. So the personnel reconciliation spreadsheet, so we'll be sending that out February 7th. It's going to be updated with the PAFs, so all those PAF changes up to February 18th. So any changes that happen after that, while you may have the budget in your current year, due to savings of sorts, you may not have that for the next year. And so you're going to be starting in the hole. So you want to be mindful that any changes that happen after that cutoff date is going to impact your 23 budget. Did you want to expand on that? Okay. Okay, so we're talking about the market grade adjustments. So again, that is a November 30th deadline. Department should be in contact with Human Resources, but you also have to put in a decision package for that market grade request. And in part, that is to make sure that we know to be looking out for that from HR. We want to make sure that we don't miss it. So this is kind of a catch-all for you guys. Personnel decision packages for new positions should include a job description and or an analysis from HR. So reallocation memos. So if you're in the middle or trying to do a reallocation that's going to require additional funding, or retain the budget authority that you currently have, that's going to need to be a decision package. So that we had quite a bit of questions on that particular one. Did anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so personnel budget amounts. So the budget authority, this is for general fund, so budget authority for the compensation adjustments, any reclassifications, the underfills, if you had a market grade adjustments, if you put in for salary holds, if there's any approved reallocations, those are currently budgeted non-departmental, and we're transferring those as needed. And so that's our part of being proactive when we're reviewing your budgets. And if we see that it's time for those particular items to make it to your budget, we're making that transfer. All right, so now is the time. You guys have any questions? All right, so that ends our presentations. On your phone, if you're interested in the slide deck and the responses, if you click finish, then it should prompt you if you want to have the results emailed to you. And if you put in your email address, it will send that presentation to you.